Guys, we're gonna go see the Justice League. Hey, check out my wife here. Honey, show everybody your shirt. Yeah, she knows all about it. We'll talk to you guys soon with more updates of it later on. Peace. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, sorry. I just want to let you guys know that I am going tonight to the screening for Justice League. I'm going to get some food right now. This is kind of like my crusade. You should have like some kind of theme music going on in the background right now, hopefully, if I edited it right. But to be quite honest with you guys, I'm actually slowly starting to get hyper excited because this is like 20 years in the making for me. So to get my heroes on screen, like live action, I'm excited. I'm so excited. I can't even lie. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Everybody know what their jobs are. I do.
Give it to an ordinary CC. You'll be in a better cell forever.
Wow. That's dark. Oh man, you guys, this is like a crusade. This is gonna be one of the most interesting videos I've actually edited because I'm sitting here and I can't say anything about the film. Like I can't do an official review. You know, I did like a minute reaction, if that. You know, I conveyed on Twitter, you know, what I thought. I said, wow. You know, I was like, if you're a DC fan, you're gonna enjoy this film, but you just have no idea, y'all. And I'm kind of getting y'all hyped for this spoiler review because all this ties into the spoiler review. This is all that's like, we should still hear music going in the background. But if I had to leave an expression, what I feel on the inside in comparison when I came out of the movie, which I was in shock, it would be, yeah! That would be my expression. Because this is 20 years in the making, dog, and it just kind of it happened. And I'm going to be seeing it again tomorrow. Then I'm going to be, you know, doing my review. I'm going to send like a small little video kind of like this one. But, dude, there's so much that I have to say. So many different things about certain characters. Things that I cannot say. And it's just like... part of the building block that is this eventual spoiler review. Hopefully there's still music playing in the backdrop. I know I keep saying it, but I do mean it. And sorry. But yeah, I just finished watching it for the second time. This was for the press screening, which actually was really dope. And I got a poster out of it, really interesting looking poster. What did I think of it after? I might have actually enjoyed it more the second time around. Just because there was so much social anxiety that I was having beforehand. This has kind of gone away, thankfully. So, talk to you guys soon. Peace. I'm right now working on my critical dissection of Justice League. Stay tuned because that spoiler review is coming. Music is playing. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Talk to y'all a little bit later on. Peace, guys. What's going on out there, YouTube? It's SCL0320 representing JVS. This is all about the culmination of my spoiler review, which I cannot wait to talk to you about. I'm a slightly bit irritated because I've looked at a couple of the other reviews from some of my critics I actually really do love on the YouTube side. I can't even imagine what the written critics are talking about. But all of them seem like they're speaking from the same exact blueprint, which is very upsetting. Some have said, you know, that Cyborg didn't have enough to do when he was quintessentially the only reason why they could actually track what was going on with the parademons with Steppenwolf. Some have said that Barry Allen's introduction was rushed. Could it have been added more things? Absolutely. But rushed? I don't really think so. biggest thing that I guess upsets me is when I think about somebody talking about depth, and when something happens, it's just kind of glossed over. And this is not shade, because I liked Thor. I allowed, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, to not allow me to have that emotional moment. When I think about looking at some of these reviews, it's like, what do you want? What more do you actually want? I can't wait to really tear down my real thought process about Justice League. The biggest problem that I also have, that I have yet to even talk about at all, is the impression of Superman in this film. People are unapologetically just outing every single part about what's going on with Superman. If you look at my critical dissection, all my reactions, my review, I leave that completely out. I just talk about the bare bones basics about what the process of what Superman means to this movie. Not even his involvement, but people are legit adding this in their review. And that, to me, is upsetting. And I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to leave in with my review, but I think that I'm going to make it intertwined in a very eloquent way. But the basis on the marketing and the PR that Warner Brothers has been doing for Justice League is to not show anything at all. There's even a scene in one of the last trailers that they did, which was a fake me out to avoid certain things. No, two different trailers fake me out to avoid people suspecting what the movie was gonna do with that character. We'll see what's gonna happen with this review, this spoiler review for real. What's going on out there? YouTube, SEL0320, representing JBS. You should hear the music still playing no matter what, because this is all chronicled to this epic spoiler review that I prepared for you guys for Justice League. This interesting part in the section, I got one more video before I get to that, so just keep watching. Hopefully you've been entertained for the most part. You get to see, my embrace, triumph, to joy, to reality, to pitfall. And this is kind of the pitfall. I want to be able to do some interesting things, but I'm just going to kind of brush over a couple things. So it's going to continue on. But I'll reference back to this point in just a second. So just like Flash. Yeah. If I really wanted to go in, and I really kind of should, I sit there and think about BVS. Whatever you think about BVS, whatever your critiques were about BVS, I had a good time visually and scope and entertainment value with BVS. BVS took his story very seriously. Was it convoluted in the sense of having all these stories embraced? It was definitely the crucible. It was the thing that was a sacrificial lamb for the DC universe to platform itself, to push out all these other kind of movies, including Wonder Woman, including everything else that preceded it. Absolutely. But one thing that the critics said, it's too dark. One, it's got too much deep story. We want just the generalization of a movie. And then three, these are not the characters that we wanted. But Justice League is very lighthearted. Some people would say fluffy. It is, from every story standpoint, very simplistic. If you look at Justice League War, the movie, it's the same exact thing, minus the villain in Steppenwolf would actually have been Darkseid, which, if you don't know, he definitely laid the foundation for Darkseid because he talked about the new gods. He's not a new god. Darkseid is. Darkseid is 3 times stronger than him, so absolutely Superman would beat the brakes off of Steppenwolf. And so from that regard, Steppenwolf is not superior to Darkseid. Case in point, wouldn't make sense for another movie. Third, in the sense of the fact that you're saying before, these are not your heroes. How can you tell me that Justice League does not have your hero, your Superman, your Batman, your Wonder Woman, the best cyborg ever? But you would really have me believe all these other things. Well, you know what I think about you, Rotten Tomatoes? You know what I think about you, other critics? Can't give a Music's still playing. But no, I just want to leave a quick tidbit before I get into the spoiler review. This is going to be tonight. Tidbit is when I was literally in the movie theater, it was only maybe 65 to 70% filled up. Nobody showed up. It was weird though, because when I bought tickets, it was like I barely got the location I got. So yeah, Thursday numbers don't necessarily look good, but I can attest and say that the movie is good and it's worth watching. I was interested to hear my man Terrell's review. He liked it, surprisingly, even from his perspective. He found a lot of counter flaws, but a lot of people have been talking about a lot of counter flaws, and I mean, I can definitely see flaws, but that's not what I look for in a superhero film. And as I've said, or I think I have said, I will be changing the dynamics of how I grade superhero movies from now on, because it's definitely an interestingly unfair perspective on the way that we should think about, interpret these movies as a whole and what they actually mean. So this will be the last video I make until. What's going on at YouTube? So CO0320 representing JVS. I looked at Justice League on Monday. Saw it on Tuesday, saw it again on Thursday. I feel the same way that I felt about it personally about Justice League since the first time or the second time I saw it. And now it is freezing outside. Whew, music's still playing, I think. Just taking the trash out. Oh, jeez. Oh, let's go. And heard a great message. My wife. Elevation Church, shout out to you guys. And nonetheless, news, Rotten Tomatoes, they have crucified Justice League. Justice League is sitting at either a 39% or 40% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. People that naturally see it, they averaging around like 85 to 90%. But it's technically a BVS situation all over again. The difference is this time that the fans that rally behind BVS, they cannot take it any further. And I'm sad to say that they have possibly turned their back on Justice League the movie, because from their expression, there are things that were left out which is unforgivable to them, and it was not the expression of what Zack Snyder wanted. Instead, this is replaced with Josh Whedon and the CEO's perspective on trying to maintain a 2-hour window of a movie. You've seen the chronicles of everything that I've, brought before this whole spoiler review. We about to break it down. The good, the bad, the ugly, spoiler filled. I'm gonna try to have a spoiler discussion this afternoon, but stay tuned. Here we go. The time is here. The time is here for the spoiler filled review for Justice League. I know it's been a long time coming. I know you saw this interesting montage full of what I hope to be clips and thoughts that I had in my head throughout the time that I watched, Justice League from the very beginning on Monday to the moment that I came literally back into the house and started to record from you right in front of you. So let's break down the Justice League. So for me, Justice League has had a lot of different things coming against it. And if you don't know anything about that, I made a video. It's about 54 minutes and it's very long, but it talked about, the things that could cripple Justice League and the things that could keep Justice League. What will break Justice League. And I break down every single negative thing that did happen and didn't happen for the Justice League. One thing that we'll talk about is the things that work. Things that, from the public perception, they got very well. From the very opening of the movie, well, not the very opening, but when the song by Sigrid, Everything? Forget the name of the actual song. Let me fact check that. I believe it was everything, but let me make sure. Hold on. Because actually, believe it or not, I actually have the soundtrack. I bought the soundtrack before the movie came out. That was one of the things that I was worried about because the soundtrack, it just kind of didn't flow necessarily like a Hans Zimmer soundtrack did. But everybody knows where it shows like all these different banners all across the world. From basically a memorial for Superman. Like it was one in Paris, there was one in Metropolis, of course, there's a whole memorial in Metropolis, but all over you could feel the expression of hopelessness that the world's feeling and mourning still. They don't express how long a time frame that he's actually been dead. That was, I guess, a negative in a lot of different sense, but from that point, it platforms the movie to be able to keep this feeling of a Zack Snyder serious tone and elevation. I already knew that, from the very beginning, that Zack Snyder wanted Justice League to be the hope that rises from us knowing from the beginning of Man of Steel to this point, this is how we get the Superman we're supposed to get. This is how we get the heroes we need. I don't even think it was needed to actually be fact-checked because in the movie, you get to see these characters flesh out so well. My favorite was definitely Cyborg. The first time we introduced a Cyborg was Silas, his dad, going through Star Labs and like this janitor who's pitching like, I'm sorry, what happened to Victor? We saw in BVS, he had did the experimentation with the mother box that was able to graft these things onto his son and bring his son basically back from the brink of death because he was dying. We don't get to see any of that in the movie. And that's what a lot of people find fault with. It's like the beginning parts and the stuff that was left out. I'll get to that a little bit later on. But for what they actually did showcase, Ray Fisher did this great job of this monotone, dialogue. And at the same exact time, this feeling and expression of love. Like he was talking to his dad, and the first time they met, you barely get to see his face, but up to the point, and he was like, well, what does everybody think about what happened? You don't want everybody to see the monster. And he was like, no. He's like, oh, you thought I was talking about me. That's the funny thing. And like, that Saw moment right there, I was like, this character has layers, has depth. And to me, it's one of the most complete versions of Cyborg that I've ever seen. Because I love Teen Titans. I love what they're doing with the animated movies. I love what they've done with him in the past. But I felt like this love and devotion to the character was done through Ray Fisher throughout. Like, I mean, he has moments where the fight scene, the epic fight scene, which I can say now because this is a spoiler review, with Superman. And like, Ray is like, oh crap, like, you need to calm down, Arthur. And then all of a sudden his makings is feeling threatened. And it's like, he's trying to sit there and control. I felt like that was such a dope scene because he aimed at Superman and Superman's just like, trying, And even when later on, like, they go and they're stopping the mother box, they needed him. They used certain dialogue moments to be able to express, the love that the character has for life, but at the same exact time, like, his unwillingness to try to push because he looks at himself in a negative standpoint. I think one of the best moments was when he was talking to Diana. And Diana basically was like, look, I've lost somebody too. I isolated myself off the world. And I need to get myself out of that. I'm still working on that. And it looks like you too. And, that's when they connect. And so later on, he has this moment where Aquaman is kind of like getting up in his face. And he's like, look, please keep the mermaid man away from me. Like, those small moments right there, like, I found myself falling in love with Victor Stone. My wife really fell in love with Victor Stone. But then let's take The Flash, for instance. Like Ezra Miller, a lot of people were going off on Ezra Miller. What was he going to bring to the role? We saw the first trailer with him, with him in costume, with him like putting his finger through some glass and showcasing like his speed, going and dodging like these rounds shot at. Some of those scenes weren't in the movie, which I'll get to that a little bit later on. But for what Ezra Miller was able to bring, he had such amazing comedic timing, mannerisms. But part of that is the fact that people don't understand how great of an actor Ezra Miller is. What was the first movie I saw him in? Was it the Wallflower movie? I think that was the first movie I saw him in. But then later on, I saw him in, the new Harry Potter series. What is the name of that one? I'm so lapsing on stuff. I apologize for that. But I know that he can act very well. And it was weird though, because when the scene with Henry Allen, which I worried was going to get taken out of the movie, when he's talking to his dad, like, you don't get to see his comedic side right away. It's not until he meets up with Batman that you even get to see that side of him. And it's like, there was no indication to me that that's how he was with everybody. Whereas with, Barry Allen with the TV series, he's kind of the same linear way. Matter of fact, everybody kind of knows who Barry is. Like, even when he's sitting there, bringing criminals justice, it's the same exact thing. The reality that I understood is that when he interacted with Batman, he felt like he could be himself. Because, he was trying to deflect when Batman was trying to, like, tell him, like, I know what you are, I just don't know what you can do. And he was just like, no, I'm not this. And you see all over his little area, he had, like, Rick and Morty. He had, like, K-pop videos going on. And it's just, his mind processes so much. And it was this funny dialogue throughout for me with Ezra Miller. And it was the point that he interacted with Batman that he finally came into his own, became that Michael Rosenbaum animated, version of the Flash that we know. A lot of people will go, okay, well, I got comic smarts, that's more so Wally West. I get that. Okay. But what everybody remembers is the animated series of Barry Allen, or animated series of actually really Wally West, what it was, but they didn't know that distinction. They just knew that was the Flash. And so they brought that into this Barry Allen, and they gave us something that's a hybrid between Wally West and Barry Allen that I think that works, because this is an early version of Barry Allen. Like, this, he doesn't even understand his powers. He even talks simplistically about, he's like a black hole because, the Speed Force is using him as a conduit to move, And so he doesn't even understand the depths of his powers. But even some of the joint that he does in the movie, when Wonder Woman was flying off, he definitely had this, Peter Evans, Quicksilver moment that was dope, because he was going, the effects of his lightning, to me, are on point. And I don't know, I just loved his comedic timing. I love what he brought to the role. He brought the sincerity. Like, if something happened to him, like when he tripped and, it looked like he broke his ankle, when he got shot, when he got, like, pummeled by, Steppenwolf, I legit was worried. And see, that's the thing, like, if you don't care about the characters, and they didn't succeed in platforming them well, not even just from a written standpoint, but from an acting standpoint. So I think they did that very well in Justice League. Wonder Woman is back. She's a G. Like, she is a straight up savage G. Same thing for Batman. Batman, to me, though, had some weird moments in this movie that very uncharacteristically are weird. Because I haven't gotten to what I think about the reshoot stuff yet. But there were definitely some things that were changed from what we saw in the trailers, the beginning trailers, to what we saw in the later on. Because the reality is, when we first see Bruce, he is gone to, he went to, I forget where, was it Iceland? Or was it Greenland? I can't remember where Aquaman was, but he went to go and try to find, Arthur Curry, which I'll get to Arthur Curry in a second. But, he was definitely that blunt Bruce Wayne that, we saw from him from BVS. But then there's later on moments where he has this moment of levity and weight. He's talking to Alfred, and he was like, look, Clark was more human than I was. Superman was more human than I was. The world needs Superman, but the group needs Clark. Something to those lines. And I thought that was a very sincere perspective, because he definitely feels the weight of that. But then he has this moment with Diana where I thought was one of the more tension-built scenes that I feel like in the Avengers movie, the first Avengers movie, that's why everybody's comparing it to, it didn't have that necessarily, because I legit feared for Bruce's life when he sat there and brought up Steve Trevor in front of her. He's like, why are you sit there and hiding? You know what I'm saying? Like, if Steve Trevor, this, she just punched him. And he was like, you were supposed to be this beacon, this hope. What are you really doing? You just now, because Lex Luthor brought up a picture of this man, came up, decided to help us. What have you been doing? And I was just like, yo. And everybody else were kind of just like, okay, Bruce, you being a jerk. Ezra Miller was like, look, if she kills you, we will back you. And then, like, at the same time that I was working on, that's where the fundamentals of their characters worked so well on the chemistry level, because, like, Cyborg was like, while you were sitting there being a douchebag, I actually was able to find the location. A lot of people say Cyborg was not useful, he wasn't used, but he was used throughout. Like, it wasn't just like he was positioned into putting him in situations. He chose to do those things. Because when he first saw Wonder Woman, and he left and jumped up into the air, like everything initially when he was there was shut down and blacked out. He left and went up, it all came back. Like, that is power. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's definitely was showcased very well in the most simplistic way through this 2-hour interval of a movie. But again, with Batman, those things that I talked about were positive. The negative side was, there was this one moment when Superman towards the end, when he came onto the scene, and like Bruce had this fangirl moment. He was just like, I was just like, what? Like, what the heck? Why would... Okay, yeah, I could be like, he's just looking, smirk, and smile. But he just legit opened his mouth up and was just like, I was like, what the heck is that? So that is not Batman. Now, when he got into an altercation physically with Superman, and he was sitting there on the ground, hurt, he's like, something's bleeding. Something's bleeding. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was funny. But, I mean, I guess the animated version would do that, but it's just kind of just like, it was very strange. It was like they were intentionally trying to add more, comedic heart moments to Batman, but that's not the methodology of his character. The other downside that I would say with Flash and Batman is they never brought up very well, because they did bring it up. They did touch on the fact that Bruce was like, look, I saw this before, I've seen this coming. He definitely did talk about the fact that, the parademon invasion was coming. But the thing is, that they didn't go and reference and say, like, he could have said to Diana, look, Diana, I had this weird dream that might have either been a premonition or Barry Allen coming back from the future, because I've seen this man before, and he told me, one, that she is the key, Lois is the key, that is his hope, and I saw this whole parademon, world, that I feel like that is what is going to happen if we do not prevent this. Thus making Batman even more thought-provoking, because he saw what will happen. You know what I'm trying to say? And I feel like even with Superman's character, that's a byproduct of what was going to happen. Like, if Superman got brought back to life with the mother boxes and they took him under their control and used him to survey the area, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would make so much more compelling, because then, like, Bruce is like, look, if we don't bring him back, they eventually will, because they will win. We need him now. That would make so much more weight to him actually saying, all right, I'm not just saying we need Superman because we can't fight this. If we don't bring him back on our side and make this work, he will eventually come back and he will enslave everybody. And it will end us, you know what I'm trying to say? And that, to me, was something they could have easily done, especially with Ezra Miller's, version and Bruce's version, because that would make the most sense, especially coming from BVS. It was almost as though they didn't add that in because they didn't want to connect this movie to BVS in a way, other than Superman, other than the expression of Superman, because a lot of people felt like that sequence was very controversial. It had Batman, shooting people, and so they were like, we're gonna stay away from that. We're not gonna go down that road. No. But from a continuity standpoint, coming from BVS, which this is a sequel from BVS, it would have made so much more sense to be like, okay, let's connect this dot. Let's allow people to understand why Bruce had this vision, what the depths of Barry's powers really is, because he hadn't got there yet. And that segues into Flashpoint. That would have been perfect, but they didn't add that in, or they didn't make that clear enough, and convey it, because even Diana would have been like, oh wow, so okay, all right, there's no debating this. We might need to position this a certain way, but okay, let's figure out how we're gonna bring Superman back. And it would have made more merit to him pushing Diana into that way. They did have a great moment of dialogue, when Diana was like, yeah, you were right about everything. And then Bruce was kind of just like, I don't know if I can do this forever kind of thing. And I was just like, they added that dialogue in to give them an out if Ben Affleck, or if they chose to push Batman out, or Bruce Wayne out, or what I would say, Batfleck out, and put somebody else in. I think that was an intentional thing, and I don't think they should have done that, honestly, man. I really don't. I feel like that was intentional dialogue that it's like, okay, all right, Batman, you tired, so what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do then? Okay, so you're gonna reintroduce Nightwing, he's gonna be Batman for a temporary amount of time. Like what? Like, they didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. But then we're gonna leave that for another day. So then you got Aquaman, and this goes into some of the negatives where I know certain things were changed, which I'm gonna make a whole different video for that person, because people legit have leaked some specific clips that were deleted scenes from the movie. I know in the very first trailer, the dialogue with Arthur Curry and Arthur Curry and Bruce Wayne was totally different. Like, it was tonally different. It felt more ominous. It felt more like visceral, and you could tell it, bro. Because when I looked at the movie, and I've seen the movie 3 times, there are moments where you can see Arthur, but you can see the back of Bruce's head talking, and I know that's not how Zack Snyder shot that. He kept close-ups on both of them at the same time, so those were reshoots. Even when they left the area and, like, Arthur, I guess, in this version decided, you know, well, I'm not gonna help you. Like, I see what happened before. Like, I'm better off alone. I have no idea how that flowed before. And I feel like the scene where he goes and saves this guy, you know, that had been attacked by a parademon, which you didn't see how he survived through the parademon part, because I feel like either one, you know, Arthur fought that thing off, or something else happened. I don't really know. I don't really know how the parademon, you know, got hurt, sunk the ship, and the guy almost died, and Arthur said, I don't understand that, but I feel like that happened in the very beginning. I feel like that was what, you know, was some of the things that were opened up to. Same thing with Wonder Woman. There was a moment that in the trailers you could see an explosion going off in the same exact building that she was in. And like the whole ground level got exploded out. And so I guess to me it showed that this group, even though she was able to stop that one bomb, she wasn't able to stop everything on the ground floor, which makes more sense to me, because that means that she needs help. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that they did that so that people weren't mortified, or people weren't feeling like, you know, these high stakes, you know, but I saw it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even like the behind the scenes video, like, I saw it. Same thing with Victor Stone. I seen him, you know, in a football jersey. Seen him like in this moment where he was, you know, just walking with his Letterman's jersey. And that was cut out. Like, it was all in the snow, and I felt like that would have been a beautiful segue of a flashback. But what to me happened, and this is no shade to Whedon, I feel like they brought Whedon in. They were like, look, we got to keep this joint under 2 hours. If we sit there and just cut out the things and try to cut it out, it's not going to flow evenly as far as a movie from a continuity standpoint. It's going to be another Suicide Squad situation. So we need you to add more dialogue and more reshot moments of the same exact thing, so that this will actually flow to be a natural, good movie, which is what, from critics' standpoint, they said that they, quote-unquote, wanted. Notice how I left everybody out of there but Superman. I'm going to talk about Superman because I've waited to talk about Superman. Like, dog, like, there were people putting their reviews talking about Superman. I was like, I'm not going to say Nathan, because none of this promotion stuff, none of these posters had him in it, minus the very last one. It was a silhouette. So it's like, if I sit there and tell somebody, oh wow, Superman was great in that movie, that's a spoiler. That's not what they wanted. So I can finally talk about it. Superman was legit. Now, I'll talk about the negatives of Superman in a second, but way they positioned him, the way that, you know, people, like with the kids with the video, when, you know, Bruce was talking about him, the way the team feels about him as a whole, when he, you know, when it was brought to the opinion from Bruce that let's use the mother box to bring him back to life, which that scene, by the way, with the Flash using like his full speed to try to joke, you know, the mother boxes to bring Superman back to life, I thought that was lit. I was like, when he busted out of there and it was just nothing but an aura of light, And then they all, went out there to try to see where he was at. I don't know how they got there so fast. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but they did. But the weird thing was, you know how like in the trailers you get to see them all like positioning in the line where they all stop here, stop here, stop here, and the last one was Cyborg? That wasn't in the movie. Why, for time's sake, I have no freaking clue, because it would have made so much more sense how they got from one place to another. Anyway, when they got there, and Superman was just kind of like in the air floating, and he went to his memorial site, and he kind of looked, and you could tell like, okay, he wasn't all together. The thing that's crazy about this is that Arthur has said that, look, if y'all bring him back to life, some part of him will die. I don't know what it is. It might be his consciousness. It might even be his soul. I thought that was riveting, because what the reality was is that what part of him was actually removed was his sense of self-doubt and self-loathing. Like his expression of need to protect and love and putting others before himself was the thing that got replaced with all his weight and all his anguish and all his self-doubt. That was the thing that actually died. I thought that was perfect in order to do, I guess, what people's perception of justice is what their Superman is supposed to be about. Because even when, the end of the day, and I haven't even finished talking about that one scene, with the end of the day, when they were in their final fight scene, and Bruce was like, look, I need you to distract this cat, and then, Barry's going to save people. He's sitting there listening. He's like, look, Barry's not going to be able to save all of them. And he just dips out. He didn't even think about it. He didn't hesitate or anything. But the thing is, he did that too in BVS. Like, it was like when he was talking to Batman, and people get flack about that, like he was growing into it, because he allowed the man that was about to kill him to go and save his mother before he did. Because he could have easily done that. He's like, look, all right, I'm going to trust you with this. I'm going to protect everybody else and stop this thing. He already showed signs that he was going to do that. Anyway, that was an awesome moment to actually watch and hear and see, because I was like, okay, this is great. But when they started to go and throw down, and Aquaman got scared, Cyborgs, Cybernetics got scared, and Barry was sitting there talking about, is this going to be a Pet Cemetery situation, or is this going to be something else? I thought that was hilarious. And then Diana tried to convince him to stop, tell him who he is. They could not stop this man. And then he had one of the best, and I mean best, and this was actually a comic book moment, because there's this moment in the comic books where Bruce is on his knees and Superman has him right here by the throat or by the mouth, and instead of that, he has him in the air. He's slowly crushing him. You can hear the crackles, because at first he just hit him right in the sternum. Now, before this, they all really tried to stop him. They couldn't. Even like when they all held him down, and all of a sudden you sit here and watch him looking behind, and like the Flash is like so afraid, and he goes on the attack against the Flash. I thought that was a beautifully shot, dope scene. And the thing about it was that you could hear moments of the John Williams score, as well as some moments of like this other tone. And I think the name of this one was Friends or Foes. I think that was the name of the score. So the actual score was made after the reshoots were done. Okay, so what they did is they were like, okay, we're gonna scrap everything as far as what Junkie X did, and we're gonna reshoot this movie. So when we reshoot the movie, the actual songs and the soundtrack itself needs to flow with how the songs are, as far as the scenes are, and that's why the soundtrack seems so out of sorts. It only works and flows with the actual scenes that are actually happening in this reshot movie. If it was like, you just listen to this, you'd be like, what the heck is all this, So I think that's the reason why they did that with the score. But anyway, with that Batman moment, he was like, you won't let me die. You won't let me live. And he was like, look, please calm down. He's like, but did they, he said it was worth the risk, the world needs you. But and he was like questioning, do they need you though? And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is BVS situation all over again. But the thing about this one is different, is that Bruce was willing to die to bring him back. Before, he was going to do everything he had to do to stop him and kill him before. This one, he was like, I would do anything and everything to do what I have to do to make you live again. And like Diana's like, back and forth with Bruce was like, oh, you're going to use kryptonite to stop him. That's going to be your nuclear turn. That's the big guns. But instead, it was Lois Lane. That was his presence of hope. That was the segue from Bruce learning what in that vision that he saw. That I think that the Flash gave him that premonition or that understanding of what the future's gonna be, so that he could stop this moment right now, versus like coming on the offensive. Cause then he just threw Bruce, and then he went away with Lois, and like the scene that they go and they're talking, it is such a setup moment that it was so beautiful and stuff like that. But I feel like this is the negative parts of this. Okay. First thing you see in the very beginning of the movie is Superman talking to these kids on this, recorded phone. And I gotta say, like, his whole face looks CG, you guys. Like, it was very noticeable. And I think that the PR team did a bad job of sitting there making it a bigger deal, because we knew for months they CG'd out his mustache, right? If I had never known that, I would have thought, okay, this is a little weird. This is a little strange. But the scenes when he's actually fighting Justice League, I don't notice it. It's only the scenes when he's at the farm where you can see this brightly lit, backlit, and you look at his face versus his body, those look totally different. Like, his face is darker here, it's shaded differently, and this looks CG. And that is a huge drop in their credibility as far as the reshoots are concerned when it came to the CG elements. And I don't know why. I don't know why. First off, Paramount should have look, let's take this L, pay us, Warner Brothers, and we will be okay with halting production for a period of time, or at least get all these shots out the way. I can't believe they're still shooting on the movie and needing him to have that mustache. Didn't make sense to me, but the very opening of the movie, you can evidently see the lacking of CG, which that could have been I don't know, they could have took some other footage and used that instead. I don't get it, dog. I really don't. I don't know why they chose that, but it was an apparent fail on the CG side. And then people try to use that and say that the whole entire movie was bad as far as CG. Cyborg is not real. The only thing that was real was the side of his face. That was great CG. They did a great job with Cyborg. They left some scenes out with Cyborg, matter of fact, that was very good. When there was one that was coming out of the alien ship, and the lighting was hitting him, they left that out of the movie. I don't know why, because that was an amazing CG shot. Even what they were able to do with Barry's powers, great CG. Now, Steppenwolf, this is I guess me going in on Steppenwolf. I don't fault Steppenwolf as a character. Steppenwolf, the reality is, if you don't know the comics, I can see why you might be a little swayed in one way or another, because it does merit explanation as to his origins. If you don't know, I think for the movie version they wanted to make Steppenwolf Darkseid's nephew, but because he was so much older, I think that they kept it, what they were supposed to be, which Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle. Okay? Darkseid is his nephew. Darkseid is a new god. Wonder Woman is considered a old god. She took powers from the old gods. That whole sequence of the flashback with Steppenwolf was going ham on the old gods, the Amazonians, the Atlanteans. I feel like that was probably a longer drawn out scene that they cut, because they showed Zeus, they showed freaking Green Lantern, they showed, of course, the other considered old gods that had these powers. And the funny thing is about Shazam is that Shazam takes powers from all the different old gods. He takes it from Zeus, he takes it from Hercules, he takes it from other people, and the wizard gives it to him. That's how he gets Shazam. So that's why that was a precursor to the eventual heroes we're gonna get. We're gonna get lanterns, we're gonna get Shazam, of course, and they just wanted to showcase that, and that was dope. But that was not bad CG. Even the moment where he was fighting up against Amazon, that was not bad CG. You know what I'm saying? And people were just murking on him about that. Well, I guess critics were necessarily, not everybody. But I don't blame him fundamentally of that. It was just, you don't understand the expression when he's like, "Mother, the unity I know is weighted." You don't get that. Because you don't have any foundation of who he was. You don't know, okay, Darkseid was like, look, you need to go and take care of this. Or he either one decided that, okay, I need to be considered a new god as well. So I'm going to go and conquer this planet that stopped me before. Because Lex Luthor gave me, wait, hold on. Lex Luthor? Yes! In BVS, in the scene they cut, Lex Luthor used the beacon of the ship to let Steppenwolf know, okay, the king is dead. The Kryptonian is dead. There's nothing here. Telepathically. They don't bring that up at all. At all. So that would have been a perfect segue. But instead, because people talked smack about Lex Luthor, they were like, okay, we want to keep him out of the movie as much as possible. Even though in the very end, they showed him. Which I'll get to that later on. I know this is long. I know this is meaty. But this is my version of a spoil review because I got to get this all out of the way. Because how I feel about Justice League right now is totally different from how I felt about it on Monday. Anyway, but again, I get it. I get that people are like, he, was a weak villain in the sense that I don't know what is driving him other than him wanting to come down and instead of like making, the mortals bow to him, he wants to just take the mother boxes and repurpose Earth into Apocalypse, which they never quote. They say pieces of his. They want to make it like a mirror image of his home world. He referenced Darkseid once for Darkseid. And if you don't pay attention, you won't get it. And the reason why is because the very end of the movie was completely different. Because Darkseid played a role in the movie. And we never will know, one, who starred in it, what they were going to do with it. Because now everything's been positioned to be put in platform for the Legion of Doom. Or, the Injustice League. So, it's sad to say, but, I get why people had a problem with Steppenwolf. But it wasn't because he was a bad villain. Because this dude, we brought down some bodies, man. He killed a couple people from Star Labs. He killed up some Amazonians. He killed up some, Atlanteans. And he gave them a run for the money up until Superman got there. The thing I wanted to segue about Superman, I didn't talk about this deliberately, is the fact that Superman, again, is without doubt in himself and the expression of what he is meant to do. So it was like, from now, he's able to use his speed to move out of the way of stuff. He's able to use freeze breath. He's able to use every tool at his disposal to stop Steppenwolf. I feel like Superman's return was also very different. I think that the scene where Lois has him in, the woods, or not in the woods, but in the field, that was shot completely different. They added dialogue in. That's another fault, the reshoots. And because the reason why I know that, because the trailer that they showed, when he was kind of looking over to the distance, that was not a CG'd out mustache. So that was pre-shot before. And even the way his hair was different, right? So I was like, what was it before? How did he come back before? Was this actually a dream sequence? So they were like, okay, we're going to use this to our advantage. Instead of it being a dream sequence, we're going to make this an actual scene. I definitely feel like even Henry Cavill showed on Instagram a long time ago, this version, what looked like a black suited, version of Superman, and they showed like a small snippet of it. And I think that in Zack Snyder's version initially that it was a black suited Superman. I don't know how, I don't know the dynamics behind what that looked like before. But I definitely think that things were different. So I don't know, man. Jeez, I'm still going. I'm getting tired. The end sequence, the end fight, where it looks like these tentacle things are like maneuvering kind of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 style, which nobody had a problem with that. But they gave all the flack to the Justice League. Anyway, when these things are going and burying into the ground and transforming Earth into what's going to be eventually a kind of like their version of Apocalypse so that, Steppenwolf can reign supreme there. I thought that was definitely added in a lot later. If you look at the early trailers, it's just this dark black backdrop, which looks to be like they lost. And they're just trying to basically stop as much as they can. Because none of the red, none of the tentacles, none of that stuff was in the original trailers at all. So that means that this played into the reshoots and the changings of the end credits whereas they didn't have that before. So unfortunately, that definitely did happen, and we won't know what the ending was. But the reality is that the movie had everything that the critics basically were complaining about VVS. It had hope. It had, you know, a simplistic story. Like, for kids, for adults, like, you can sit there and bring your kid in there and they be like, oh, well, that's a villain. Like, they gotta stop him. They're the Justice League. Anybody that was a lover of the cartoons, anything that reference, like, of course, Cyborg says, booyah! Like, that is straight from the, you know, even like Superman. And the Superman that people claim that they've been wanting for years, they gave it to him. They made the movie shorter. Like, this is the shortest, you know, that was one of the things that I was like, I want the most epic version of Justice League that they can give me. You let Zack Snyder just like roll all over that joint. But I was like, at a certain point, I realized that's not what I was going to get. So I was like, I just want a good movie. You know what I'm saying? And you know what happened? Boy, that joint backfired on WB hardcore. Everything that they complained about BVS, they basically got in Justice League, but then they're like, it doesn't have enough story. It's tonally different. It's way too fluffy and lighthearted. And I was just like, dog, like, WB can't win. I thank God for my wife, because my wife was basically like, look, you know, at the end of the day, you enjoyed it, you know, and you understand that it's always going to be this back and forth comparison of Marvel and DC, and it's going to be unfortunately favorable on the Marvel side. Like, it's just how it is. Accept it, and there's nothing wrong with you loving something that you felt the expression behind. And I thank God for my wife for that, because that allowed me to be able to be sincere and secure in the way that I feel about Justice League, which it is a good movie. In spite of everything they changed and removed, why am I going to still complain about the movie? But now there's merit to that, because the movie is at a 39% Rotten Tomatoes score, average user 85 to 90%, Metacritic I think it's like 50, maybe below, and so yeah, people still found fault in Justice League. So it's like, even though I was scared with it, my friends liked it. A lot of people I've talked to enjoyed it. You know, now what's happening is, to be on the defensive, DC fans have just had enough. And so they're petitioning to have a recut version of Justice League made, which is fine. But the problem is that if the DC fans are not rallying behind Justice League, it will just allow Warner Brothers to just remove the whole scope of everything and wipe the whole slate clean. And you guys will get, you know, the cut that you want, but you still need to be behind the movie. The other thing that I don't understand, I'm sitting there looking on Twitter, right? People that talk bad about the movie, they're going and seeing it again. So how? I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but I'm sitting there looking on Twitter like, I know what you just said about Justice League. You've seen it for the 4th time. I want to see the 3. How can you talk bad about something you're continuously watching? That means you're entertained by it, you know? So, say la vie. That is my spoiler-filled review of Justice League. At the end of the day, it is sad to say the DC fans are more so petitioning for this extended cut, getting upset with Justice League, getting upset with Warner Brothers, than being happy and hopeful that they got their heroes that they wanted, the heroes that they deserved, brought in this world through the Justice League movie that Zack Snyder created, no matter who was involved in it. I enjoyed it. I still maintain an 8.5 out of 10 rating. I would watch it again. Do I know that things were changed? Do I know that there's definitely a different cut out there? Absolutely. But where I learned my lesson with BVS and Suicide Squad specifically, Suicide Squad to me got robbed way more than Justice League ever could. Suicide Squad got the actual villain that they initially had taken completely out of it. And it's like, no matter how much I begged and pleaded, and I did get this extended cut, it still didn't have all the things that I wanted, because at the end of the day, it's not under my control. All I can put my control over is the fact of, was I entertained by this movie? This is a superhero movie. This is not, you know, the Iliad. This is not, you know, something that was of great depth. You know what I'm saying? Like, this wasn't a Matrix. This wasn't, you know, something like True Detective. This wasn't something that merited, to me, this so much negativity and critique, because at the end of the day, it's a superhero movie. And so, unfortunately, from now on, the way that I'm going to be doing superhero movie reviews, I'm not going to be giving you guys a rating scale with them. I'm going to just let you know the good, the bad, and the nerd. No, I'm just playing. I'm not, Andre, this is no shade. I am going to say the good, the bad, and I'm just going to talk about the way it made me feel. You know what I'm saying? Like more so like Emergency Awesome Charlie. I think I love the way he actually does his reviews as much as his dissections through stuff. I'm just not going to get into these politics and numbers anymore, man. Like, these are superhero movies. Like, how can you rate Justice League on the same scale of something like Blade Runner 2049? That doesn't make sense to me. It reaches a different demographic of people, which shouldn't be platformed based on Rotten Tomatoes Metascore or my score. You know, it should be something that you should just go to be entertained. And if it actually entertains you and your family, then it did its job. Could it have been better? Could it have been a deeper and more bigger, grander movie? Talk to the Richard Donner cut. Because the old, you know, Superman movie had a Richard Donner cut that a lot of people say is better. You know, so this has been happening for years, and we got to break the cycle in some specific way. Okay, you guys? Hopefully you enjoyed this spoiler-filled review. For Justice League, I'm out of breath. I'm hot. Tired. Woo! I'm going back to being Clark Kent for a little bit. But you can definitely bet it that I had a great time watching Justice League. I'm excited to see if they ever do bring out an extended cut. What I do worry about is that they'll ever wipe the slate clean, which I hope they don't. And my closing thoughts on the two cut scenes, which I have a video of that. You can go to the description bar below, or it should be somewhere right here. That was lit. It was so lit. Lex Luthor in his suit, you know what I'm saying? But I still stand by that you wouldn't have a character, you know, you wouldn't have a person in the cell that looked just like Lex, but it was smiling, if the Joker wasn't the person that broke him out. There was no indication to me that Deathstroke broke Joker out. I feel like Deathstroke went to meet him at his yacht so that, you know, Lex can talk proposition to him. I think that Joker was the one that let him out. And to be quite honest with you, I think that there was an earlier scene of Deathstroke as well, because if you look at my video that I did somewhere, I don't know where I did it, where it showed Deathstroke coming out of this helicarrier, I think that Deathstroke was in the movie as well beforehand. So I will have another dissection video a little bit later on about all the deleted scenes. I talked about a good number of them, but some of them are still leaking. So I'll talk to you guys about that a little bit later on. Hopefully you enjoyed this huge and long spoiler review. But I've been waiting to get it off my chest, and it's sad, man, because I just want to be able to enjoy a superhero movie. I didn't get this with Spider-Man Homecoming. I didn't get this with Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't get this with Thor. And to me, you know what I'm saying, Spider-Man Homecoming was good, but wasn't great either. I thought that Guardians of the Galaxy had good moments, but I didn't think it was good. Thor was entertaining and fun, but it wasn't the greatest. Like, all these things had different flaws, and I don't know why people have this incessant need to just dig into the DC with that. So, but at my wife's point, and for me to, you know, encourage you, take heart in enjoying the characters that have been brought to life for you this year from Marvel, DC, and Fox, and what they're going to be doing moving forward. Keep encouraged, keep going out, keep watching, let your voice be known, because at the end of the day, no matter what critic tells you, if you found entertainment in it and it did something within your heart and it brought up some great memories and a great time for your family, it will be cemented through the lapse of time no matter what. Okay? Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Even though Justice League look like it might stop. Just joking. Peace, guys.